Hey, Tom here. Welcome to my channel, Tom Loves DIY. If you've spent any time on my channel, you know I'm into backpacking as well as doing DIY stuff, and where those intersect, I have a lot of fun making things for when I'm on the trail. To lighten my load a little bit, because I'm not getting any younger, I've been purchasing lighter weight gear. I recently got a Zpacks offset solo tent. Uses 2 trekking poles, one on each side, to support the entire tent. Sometimes I don't want to carry 2 trekking poles, I just want to carry one. And the Zpacks auxiliary pole is over $40. It's a great piece of gear, but I'm a DIY guy, so I'm going to make one. Got a bunch of old arrows, and I've cut them into 4 segments, and then using my 3D printer I have made the ends. This is the top that'll go against the tent, and this is the bottom with the pointy part that goes into the ground. 3D printing these things was ridiculously easy. I have some experience with graphics programs, and that probably helps. And I'm going to join them with some of this aluminum tubing. I'll glue it on one side and have it on the other. And it's 4 segments, so I'll be making these, putting them together, and putting some shock cord in between so that they can be folded up like so. I'll show you that when it's done. So I've got this tent pole I made for my Zpacks offset solo tent, and it does work, but it's really flexible, and I'm concerned that under stress this could break and leave me with a sagging tent out on trail. Let's take a closer look. It's bowing quite a bit now that I've got this pulled out tight. And it's gonna bow one way or the other, but it might be okay. Just, I don't think I'm gonna trust it. So, given that these were some really cheap carbon fiber arrows, thought I should find some new material. And I do have these leftover tent poles. These are Easton aluminum poles from my 1985, I think, North Face Dragonfly tent. Pretty cool tent. At the time, quite lightweight, but it's long gone. But I think I'm going to use these for another project. So they're off the table. And then I remembered that I have a bunch of these Easton aluminum arrows that I bought after I made my homemade bow out of a hickory tree from my backyard. Unfortunately, they don't work very well because these are designed for a compound bow. They have these rubbery fletching on them, and so when it's shot from the bow, these hit the bow or the arrow rest and they deflect the flight. So I've got a half a dozen of these. I don't have any use for them. I could cut them down and turn them into crossbow bolts. I made a crossbow a few years ago. It's pretty awesome. A little scary, actually. I might show you that one in a new video. But I've got enough bolts. I don't need these for my bow, and I'm not going to buy a compound bow. So I might cut these down. Yeah, I think that would be the best thing to do. I can make a nice sized tent pole with 2 of these, and it should be a lot stronger and stiffer than those carbon fiber. So I've got an arrow here in my vise, and I'll take the point out of it. They're still usable. And I've got my pipe cutter. Found that this is the best way to do this. If you're going to remove the end of these, I'll get it down far enough so that I'm not going to interfere with this. I think that should about do it. And just go around and around a few times. Each turn or 2, Just tighten it down a little bit. Eventually it comes off and it falls on the floor and rolls someplace where you can't find it. So that's cut, and it's always a nice clean cut, and it does kind of round it in a little bit. I'll have to deal with that. So the next thing is to find some aluminum pieces that I can use as a joint either on the outside or on the inside, like tent poles. I'm going to check that out, see what I've got up in my box up there. So using my cheap calipers from Harbor Freight, they're pretty good. I've determined that the inside diameter on these arrows is about 7.05 when they're rounded off from cutting them with the pipe cutter. Otherwise, they're about 7.25 millimeters. I have another old arrow. This was my first messing around. And it turns out that the outside diameter of these old cheap aluminum arrows is almost exactly the same as the inside diameter on the Easton. So I'm going to cut these up into about 8 centimeter long pieces, insert 4, epoxy them in, and I'll be able to put together what I need to make the tent poles stay together. The pole needs to be 47-48 inches total length, and I will make some 3D printed pieces like these to go on the end, and that'll add about a total of 1 inch. So I'm going to shoot for about 23.5 inches on this. Now, if I measure that, it takes me right about to there on the fletching. So I'll have to peel these off, and then I can cut 2 of these in half, figure out the joinery, and I'll be all set to go. So I've cut down this aluminum arrow for the inside to 8 centimeters, got 3 of them, sanded it off a little bit because this coating is pretty slick and I want to make sure the epoxy will work. Because there's only a fraction of a millimeter difference in the outside diameter of this and the inside of this, it's kind of hard to get them together. So I use my tool to just clean up that inside a little bit. Then they might go together. They do a little bit more. This Easton aluminum is pretty hard stuff. It's 7000 series. So there. Now it goes in, and I'll be able to epoxy it in. It's really a nice fit. There's just enough room to get a little bit of epoxy around this purple insert. So I'm really happy that I remembered I had these arrows, not used the aluminum tubing, which didn't fit as well. I'll finish that up and get some epoxy ready. And then I will be putting in a little bit of this really thin shock cord to hold everything together, and I'll have my 3D printed pieces that go on the end. I'll show you that in a few minutes. Making the spike to the bottom of the pole. All the stuff you see around the bottom, that's just support material. All of my pieces ready. Got the inserts, got the tubes, got the top and bottom. And I was going to use my favorite JB Weld original, but I decided I don't think I want to use that. It's kind of thick and I need something that'll flow a little better, so I'm going to go with this JB Clear Weld. I've had good luck with it, and it seems to bond well with plastic as well, so it'll help with the top and bottom pieces. So I have my epoxy mixed up. I'm going to put some on the end of this. Careful not to put too much on. Oh, you got a little paper towel there to scrape it up. But I also don't want to get it down here on the end that's going to go into the tube. So let's see how that goes. My first one, I'm going to rotate this as I put it on. And I've got my measure here so that I can get it to the 4 centimeter mark. A little bit deeper. Okay, that looks about right. I'm going to carefully set this aside and I'll do the others. So I've fed the shock cord through, comes all the way around, and I put some blue tape on here to hold it in place so that I'll put some epoxy on and then I can slide these on over it like so. Once the epoxy hardens, then I'll trim off the excess. I'll do one at a time so that I can stretch this out to the other end to appropriate, and then fold it over and blue tape it on and follow the same procedure. And then this will be done and ready to test. So that's my homemade tent pole. Aluminum arrows, little 3D printing for the bottom and the top. It's pretty stable. Pushing on that, that's probably about 10 pounds of force. Hardly bows at all. Way better than the carbon fiber that I used on the first try. So I think I've got a winner, and I'm going to be using this on the trail when I only want to take one trekking pole. Hope to see you out there. Thanks for watching.